I will just say that one of my, in addition to the tech rebound and the first to worst I talked about, the thing that surprised me the most in the second quarter was the boring old diversification and how it actually matters, right? So again, here's the broken record, because diversification is such a boring topic, right? It just is, but it's so important for people to understand. It's like saying, talking about fuel economy is so boring, but it's so important to, how well your car is running, or how much
Yeah.
gas you're saving on a trip or anything like that. I'm a boat owner, so you want to talk about like gas efficiency, right? I've got this gauge on my boat that tells me how many gallons an hour I'm burning. And if I'm going full speed, I'm burning 50 gallons an hour of fuel. Like, that's just
Yeah,
crazy. Because
it
on the
is.
water, you pay $5 for it, right?
And
So
it's kind of like a
anyway,
portfolio. If you're going full speed, you might be burning your resources way quicker if you're not paying attention to
yeah.
what it means to actually, slow down when you can be more fuel efficient, to your point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But okay, so anyway, um, the diversification really mattering. I mean, because here's again the broken record. Like, just nothing leads forever. Trees just don't keep growing to the sky, and we saw that concept play out during the first half of 2026. But I'll start off with emerging markets and international stocks outperforming U.S. equities. So the ticker IEMG, which is the emerging markets, up
Hmm.
24.2% through the first half. And then the small and mid cap stocks outperforming their large counterparts, with IWM, which is small cap, up 22.6, and MDY, which is mid cap stocks, up 17.2%. And then what was really interesting too was the value stocks outperforming the growth names. So we saw IWD, which is the ETF that tracks the value stock, the large cap value stocks, up 16.1%, versus the IWM, which is the growth names, was only up 5.1%. And that's while the S&P 500 was up 10.1%. So almost exactly in the middle, the S&P 500. So the value stocks just really, really doing well versus the growth names. And most people haven't been all, pounding the table on value stocks for the past few years, because we've been doing nothing but talking about the Mag 7. So, and speaking of that, that group was actually down. That's that minus 2.5% I was telling you about
Hmm.
at the end of the quarter. And then 6 calendar days later, it's back positive. But, I think the thing that shouldn't surprise me was that, hey, diversification still matters. And, this, again, that small cap performance, I mean, entering 2026, okay, the US small caps, as measured by the Russell 2000, okay, has trailed the US large cap S&P 500 index for 5 consecutive years. Okay. Then, just inside the first 6 months of 2026, when I barely have my Christmas tree put away, we see this reverse, right? Where small caps have gained over 22%. And by the way, that was the best first half performance for the Russell 2000 since 1991. You know what I was doing in 1991? Getting ready to deploy to the Desert Storm. I mean, that's how long ago it's
I
been
wasn't
since
even
that
born yet
performance.
at that point, honestly, Dave. It's got
I
me
mean,
beat by a
like,
year.
yeah, I was like 23 years old, Anyway, and that was the best first half performance since 1991. I mean, that's a pretty damn long time. And, and with that 12% spread over the large cap index, you know, we've seen the biggest small cap outperformance for the first half since 2001. Again, 2001 was like 9/11. So,
Yeah.
it's been a long time since we've seen this sort of outperformance, either on a whole basis or just a spread over large cap or any of those things. And, kind of flew under the radar. Nobody's really talking about it.
And I think you can approach diversification two ways, right? I think it's really important. You can choose which way you want to approach it,
Right.
because so many people have been calling for value stocks to outperform growth and small cap to outperform for, I'm going to say, a decade.
Yeah.
Now, it took basically until now, basically 2026, for that to happen. So, yes, you could have been in those saying every year diversification, diversification, which is fine if you're okay understanding that diversification usually means you have something that isn't quite keeping up with the better performing part of your portfolio. Because you're not
Right.
diversified if everything is moving in tandem. You need things
Mhm.
being moving differently. International, to your point, is another example. It really hasn't been until 2025 and 2026 now, where international emerging markets have done better than the US markets.
Right.
Diversification is you can take a more buy and hold approach, which I actually think can be a completely reasonable solution, because at some point you're going to see the benefits as things catch up, and you don't want to have to try and predict when that's going to happen. You want to know that you're going to be in that. So through better or worse, you're going to hold stuff that maybe again is moving differently as other parts of your portfolio. That's one way.
Exactly.
I think the second way you can do diversification is if you're able to take a very active approach and look at the data. Wait till you start seeing some of the momentum into these sectors and then move towards them. Move towards them to be allocated to the parts of the market that are showing strength when they show strength, not in anticipation of it, because you're never going to be able to predict when that strength really holds. You're going to need a data-driven approach to tell you, we have momentum here. Let's try and capture this.